no fighting on gas lines. We're gonna just chit-chat, get done with this meeting so I can drive to Decatur.
Oh, well, so we know someone who's an agenda, so it does move it along, so we'll approve that Forest Main project on minutes. You should have, well, you were at land use last night, you
Yeah.
spent 2 hours.
I know
That
you
was
did.
not really.
We were gonna deal with it again today, tonight.
No,
No, we had a land use meeting last night, and the project just went on for that.
Oh,
we
okay.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're
Yeah.
gonna start.
Right.
Okay, I can't start with the agenda till I announce everybody. So this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Facilities Committee, and here at the beginning of the meeting are Raina Getz, our Counselor at Large from Ward 5, Mark Laredo, President, and Counselor at Large from Ward 7. Online, we have Andrea Kelly, Counselor at Large from Ward 3. We have Vicky Danberg, Counselor at Large from Ward 6. Is there anybody else? No, and me, I'm Susan Albright, Counselor at Large from Ward
Allison's away.
2. Allison's away. So there's 5 of us, I guess. Who's on the bottom? We can't see. And we have our committee clerk, Cassidy Flynn, who's, I guess we have a new clerk starting at the end of July.
Yes.
So Cassidy won't have to do double duty. She's doing triple duty this week.
Counselor Gentile is joining.
Okay, Counselor Gentiles from Counselor at Large from Ward 7 and a
4.
member of the committee.
4.
I mean, 4 and 7 on the brain. Okay, so our first item, we have various people from the city, but they'll come in as we need them. First item on the agenda is 278-24. Verizon petitioning for a grant of location to relocate one jointly owned pole, P6, located on the northerly side of Chase Street, approximately 13 feet southwesterly from its existing location to accommodate a new driveway. Who is presenting from Verizon? Anybody? Do you know who that would be? Well, while we're waiting to see, we've been joined by Councillor Kalis, Councillor at Large from Ward 8. I almost said 7 again.
It's a great word.
Do you know the name of the person we're looking for?
You have been Verizon, just always talks, but I don't know. She's attended tonight,
I mean,
but none of these names. John Maynard.
John, Mr. Daglian from engineering. Do you know anything about this petition?
Yes, the homeowner had requested the utility companies to have the pole relocated for their driveway access.
Second, John, because the Cassidy's turning up the sound. Okay, could you say that again?
Yeah, I believe the homeowner had petitioned Verizon to make the request to have the pole relocated so they could accommodate their driveway.
Okay. Well, I don't see anybody here from Verizon. Can we do this without a presentation? Or do we just have to have a public
Yeah,
hearing?
it's a homeowner.
Is the homeowner here?
This may be.
Alex. Alex.
Alex, are you the homeowner?
Yes, hi, this is Alex Hogan. We're the owner of 4749 Chase Street.
Okay. And you need to move this because,
Yeah, we requested the Verizon to relocate the pole 13 feet to accommodate a new driveway for a new construction that we're planning
okay,
on that parcel.
okay. So we have to open a public hearing. So we are opening the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak about this project? If you do want to speak, there is it called raise hand? I don't, yeah. So there's a raise hand on the bottom of the screen and you can click on that or you could wave your hand. So Amy Lees, I think I'm reading, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. I'd like to understand as the neighbor next door, where exactly they're moving this relative to 41 Chase Street. Because we already have a pole on one side and we don't want another pole moved closer to us.
Let's see, could we open up the map? so she could see? Would you be able to do that? If you hold on a second, Cassidy is going to the agenda and she will try and open up the map and then you will be able to see where it is and where it's being moved to.
It says existing pole.
1 second.
To be relocated, so I don't know the symbology. It looks like it's not moving far, it's 13 feet.
Yes, 13 feet. Which house are you? What's your address on Chase? Amy, what's your address on Chase?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
If you click download. Oh, okay, okay, all right.
It's a-
I believe that Miss Les is next door to the property in question.
What number is?
What number is, which direction are we going in?
She's 41, I think. She's-
41.
She said 40.
It's hard to read.
So it's moving further. away,
Ah, so it's moving,
down, it looks like,
it's moving to the east, if I'm correct.
it's moving down toward.
To the west, I mean, it's going to the west. Which is.
So,
Face it, the house to the right.
so if I'm facing the house, is that to the right or the left? Is it moving towards 41 or away from 41?
I don't know, There's a
Can you
little
tell
arrow.
from that map which way it's going?
there's a little arrow that points,
It points,
13 feet points, it looks like it's directional.
I think it's going towards her house.
Yeah, that's an issue because we already have one that's on the other side of our house and we really don't want one on each side of our house.
It's moving away.
Yeah.
I'm moving away?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, I can't see because it's too far away here.
You see the project, it's going to the left or the right of the project.
It's moving away. It looks like it's moving away.
It
So
is.
it's currently
Yeah,
almost across from Ripley and it's moving the other way.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Does she see the screen?
Yes, I can. Okay. I can see where it is.
Okay, so are you all set?
If it's,
Being-
yes.
Tell them, you're facing the project, it's going to the left.
Okay, and Alex, did you want to say something else?
No, I just wanted to confirm that it is moving to the left and it's still gonna stay in front of 47, 49.
Okay. So is there anyone else who would like to speak on this particular project? Okay, I think we can close the public hearing and bring it into committee. And is there anyone that has questions or comments about this? Councilor Danberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first that I'm hearing about this. I have seen a previous version of this project, and this version has changed considerably. There was no request for movement of any pole in the previous project, and I have not been contacted at all by the developers and found out via my Friday packet that this was even an issue. So I need to contact other neighbors. I need to know more about this project, and I think the neighbors need to know more about this project. And so I'm going to move to hold on this tonight because I feel that we don't have enough information to move forward.
So Danberg, this is not about that project. This is only about moving the telephone pole.
Yes, well, the moving of the pole is a part of the project. So I don't feel that we have enough information in order to make the decision on moving the pole, because the pole only needs to be moved in order to accommodate a driveway that has been moved on the project. So I don't feel that I have enough information on this to make the to make a decision tonight.
Okay, I think Council Gentile, did you want to say something?
I just want, it sounds like Council Danberg is gonna move to ask that the item be held. And if I have that right, I just want to speak in favor of it because, you know, I was struck by the fact that a neighbor has to show up tonight, you know, to find out what's going on. If I'm moving if I'm doing something like this, I mean, it's not major, but it's not exactly minor. I'm gonna take the time to go to my neighbors and just let them know what's going on as a common courtesy. And again, I keep talking about the fact that, when, and again, this, I'm not saying, I realize this isn't a special permit, but they're still here looking for permission to do something. And I don't know what happens at the hall sometimes, but I just again wish that when people come in with petitions that they're encouraged to talk to their neighbors and also to their counselors to as a courtesy to let them know what's going on. It just happens repeatedly, and it didn't used to be this way. And again, I'm that old grump that keeps talking about the way that things used to be, but courtesy is courtesy. So I don't know why the petitioner couldn't at least go to the two neighbors on either side and say, you may have gotten something in the mail. This is why I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So they would at least know what the hell is going on. So I'm all for holding this thing until Councilor Danberg can get more information.
Councilor President Laredo?
So I certainly appreciate both the courtesy that we try to show to our colleagues from a particular ward when there are projects in their ward. I very much appreciate and agree with what Councilor Gentile just said. What I understand from the developer is this a by right project?
Alex, I don't know your last name. That's why I'm calling you Alex.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it is by right project. It's a VCOD project.
So this is our new village center zoning.
Yes. Yes.
And by right, but you still need permission. So did you talk to the neighbors?
We had planning review the plans, and the plan is to so they reviewed the plan. They confirmed that it meets all of the zoning, and the next step was to submit for a site plan approval. So we can keep the pole where it is and just work around it. But I guess you're looking for just more information from for the neighbors, which we can certainly provide.
I'm fully in support of Councilor Danberg's request to hold this item. Thank you.
Okay, so any other counselors? Now, Alex, I want to ask you one other question. We do not plan to have a meeting in August. So our next
Okay.
meeting would be September, what? Yeah, I don't think we can have a meeting that week.
We can't have them.
No, no, we can't have one unless we have it on a Thursday.
You could do it before the council meeting if you want.
Yeah, so the earliest we could meet on this is September 4th. Is that gonna
Okay.
cause you any issues?
No, I think we'll just for now we'll communicate our plans to the neighbors. We'll revise the plans accordingly, and if we can circle back on this in September rather, and relocate the pole, get approval for relocation for Verizon, then we can revert back to the original plan.
Okay. All right, so Councilor Danberg is moved hold on this.
Madam Chair, can we get Alex's full name and address for the record?
Yes,
Sure. Alex Hogan, 56 Marcellus Drive, Newton.
you got it? Okay, thank you very much. And so all those in favor of hold, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so it's 100% unanimous. All right, so our next item is 279-24, Kevin Hennigan, 27 Champa Street, number 1, Newton, petitioning to relocate the existing city sanitary sewer main located at 949 Dedham Street to a portion of the property just easterly of its current alignment to allow.
Recording stopped.
Uh-oh.
Recording in progress.
To allow for an extension of the dwelling on the property, the petitioner to pay the entire cost. Mr. Hannigan, are you here to speak on this?
Hi, good evening. I am here.
Do you have any more information to provide for us?
Yes, of course. I'm just going to share my screen right now.
Yes, please.
Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the current easement runs directly through the center of this property. It's a rather large lot located on Dedham Street. And the current structure is located on the right-hand side of this easement. Unfortunately, we are unable to build on top of this easement. So what we're asking is for the relocation of our easement. Originally, we had actually kept with just a 15-foot wide easement that's existing. We were informed through engineer that it had to be 20 feet wide, so we made those adjustments. We have a sewer manhole that's already existing on the property. We propose to run it towards the road in an easterly direction as we look at it. Install another manhole and then a second manhole before it ties back into the existing. So all the work that will be done will be conducted within the property site.
Okay, anything else?
No, we've reached the requirements of everything that the city has asked us to do. We've already provided the Mylars to update the registry of deeds and so on. So at this point, we're just asking for permission to proceed with the project.
Mr. Daglian, do you have anything to add?
No, they complied with all the requirements that we had. It's just a matter of formality. If it's approved, that the new easement will be granted to the city and the old easement will be abandoned once the utilities are removed.
Very good. Councilor Kalis?
Yeah, one question. So is the only thing that you're creating is a third manhole and that's on the property as well?
I'm actually creating two new manholes that will be both within the property. So we have one here on the rear that's existing. I have one at a midway point on the left-hand side as we look at this photo. And then I have another one that would be within the property. Originally, we were going to tie into the street, but given how busy Dedham Street is, we didn't want to, we didn't want any inconvenience for anyone, like traffic delays and so on. So we had come up with this solution to kind of mitigate that as best we could.
Okay. And Mr. Daglian, is it electrical underneath there or what is it?
Sanitary sewer.
Okay. And there's no problem with the curve?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Gentile?
I was curious, what is the address of the property that is actually being serviced by this work?
So the addresses would be the June Lane and Etsy Farm Road that would be directly behind this area. It'd be kind of between, oh, sorry.
That wasn't clear to me. So is this work going to service more than one property in the rear, or what exactly? Why is it being done?
So it's being done so that on our property, we're able to expand the property and build a house that would be more centrally located within this. It's a big piece of land in comparison to other sites in the area.
So in the address of so it's going to service one new house or several houses?
So this is going to service, it currently services a number of houses, and that service is going to continue while we proceed with the project. And then once we have, once we tie this in, it's, service will not be interrupted.
But again, it is for the benefit of building one new house, is that it?
Yes.
And what's the property address?
It's 949 Dedham Street.
So it's 949 Dedham Street, okay.
Councilor Danberg? Are you all set, Councilor Gentile?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Danberg?
Yes, thank you. even with the question that Counselor Gentile just asked, I don't understand why, if there is a house on there now and there is one house going to be put onto it, why the need for a change? Could you explain why you need this change to be made if there is a house there now and you're only planning on putting one house? If the lot is 22,000 square feet, it's a significant lot, but it's not like you're gonna put multiple units there, or that you're claiming that you're going to do that. Why do you need to do this?
So we can build a house, technically we can't build on top of the easement. So with the way that this easement splits up this lot, we have to be either on the left or the right-hand side of it. And due to the zoning of this area being an SR2 area, we don't meet the requirements to split it, unfortunately. I mean, if there was a way to split it, yeah, that would be great, but unfortunately, it's not applicable to this lot.
And so the reason that we're doing this is so that you can more centrally locate the house. I see that it's slightly to the right because the easement runs through the middle of the property.
Yes.
And
So
you
yeah, the,
just want to move the house to the left, and therefore you need to move the easement.
correct. Yeah. With this easement going down, we have a 15-foot wide. So if we see this, but like that's technically where the easement is, you're not allowed to build on top of the easement.
Correct.
So with us being able to move it, we'd be able to put something that would be, more centrally located and something that you would typically see in this area.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So we should open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this project? And again, if you could find that little raise hand button and click it, or just wave your hand and we'll try and see you. So is there anybody who would like to speak on this easement change? I don't see anybody. Let me just scroll through and make sure there's nobody waving their hands at me. No, there isn't anybody. Okay, I see somebody no, that's Councilor Kalis. I don't see anybody that wants to speak, so we can close the public hearing and bring it back to committee. Councilor Kalis?
I'll move approval.
Okay, Councilor Kalis has moved approval. Councilor Danberg?
Just one quick question, and that is, how will the movement be paid for? Is this going to be paid for by the developer?
Petitioner to pay the entire cost.
Say that again, I didn't hear it.
To pay the entire cost.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Councilor Kalis has moved approval. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Hennigan, this goes to the full council on August 12th for final vote.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your time.
Okay. The next item is 293-24, Eversource Energy petitioning for a granted location to install and maintain approximately 378 feet of conduit westerly from the new manhole NH 32297 at the intersection of Auburn Street and Evergreen Avenue to support the MWRA tunnel boring machine project. Who is here to speak for this one? Is there somebody here from Eversource?
Usually it was Cal.
Mr. Daglian, do you have information on this project? There was backup material.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so Eversource is requesting the location of a manhole and a couple of 100 feet of conduit. The only concern that we have is that DPW just recently installed a raised crossing there. We asked if the manhole could be moved closer towards the Auburn Street intersection to avoid digging up the raised crossing and to relocate the conduit if they have to go to the pole. If they can't relocate it, then we expect that raised crossing be reconstructed to our standards.
So would you feel comfortable just putting that condition, or should we wait until someone from Eversource is actually in the room?
I would be comfortable with that condition.
Okay. All right. Council Gentile?
So unfortunately, the counselor from Ward 4 is not comfortable with that, just adding that condition. As Mr. Daglian points out, we just literally within the last week totally replaced that traffic calming situation. It was actually part of the special permit. You remember the gas station that went in there several years ago. It was a pretty controversial special permit. I think over the years things have definitely calmed down, but still one of the conditions was the raised it's not a crosswalk, it's more of a traffic calming measure. And if you go there, the city just rebuilt it because over the years the bricks had settled and so forth. So I think just as a matter of practice anyway, I think a representative from the utility should be here for any and all of these petitions. So in addition to the fact that we need answers as to how they're going to deal with this recent repair, I would ask that we would hold the item.
Okay. And since there's nobody here from Eversource to say yay or nay to that, I think we should just take your motion and see if everybody else wants to hold. Should we open the public hearing? However,
Yeah.
let's open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that is here to speak on this 293-24? Again, you can click the raise your hand button and we will see that you want to speak. I don't see anybody who is wanting to speak, going once, going twice. Okay. I think we can close the public hearing and act on Councilor Gentile's motion to hold.
Can I ask that we just in case, I kind of doubt it, but since we're going to be getting more information, hopefully, when the people from Eversource come to the next meeting, can we keep the public hearing open just in case?
Yeah, we'll keep the public hearing open until our next meeting, which will be in September. Okay, so all those in favor of hold, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? So again, that's unanimous. All right. The next item, do we have Mr. Morse here? Yes, we do. We have design review, this is item 268-24, design review committee petition pursuant to 558 for schematic design and site plan approval of 225 Nevada Street to construct a new 22,000 square foot addition to be located directly behind and adjacent to the existing gym. The new addition will allow for additional educational space and grade level clustering of classrooms with additional educational support spaces and enlarged cafeteria and music room. The project will include interior renovations to adjust some existing classroom and educational room sizes and provide a new library space. When completed, the school facility will provide a total of 18 general education classrooms, breakout and/or project areas for each grade level, improve special education spaces, and will accommodate design enrollment of 396 to 414 students. Mr. Morse and Mr. Balcarce, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. I also appreciate you taking some time on this summer evening to hear our presentation. So I'm just going to remind the committee that if the presentation tonight looks a little familiar, it's because I just gave the exact same one to you a couple months back, and then gave a very similar one about a month before that. So this will be our third time around through this presentation. And then for anybody else watching, just so that nobody believes or thinks that we just show up and present a project of this magnitude without some process ahead of time. I think we're closing in on roughly 80 public meetings where this project has been discussed. approximately 75 email correspondence out to the project listserv. And just a few quick thank yous. The Horace Mann parent community and staff community have been incredible throughout this process. They've been, our meetings have been very, very well attended. They're very dedicated to the cause. They have stayed right through the building committee, and then when we transitioned to the design review committee as the lead, members of the Horace Mann community have continued to show up every single night, making this project the best possible version of itself. So I'm joined tonight with by Deputy Commissioner Alex Valcarce, Stephanie Gilman from Newton Public Schools, and Steve Watchorn from RDA, our design team. I'm actually going to take you through the presentation tonight. And if we get into the weeds too far, I'll kick things over to Steve. So with that, I'm going to share a screen. All right. Can everybody see that? Good. All right. So I'm doing this in PDF as opposed to PowerPoint because the PowerPoint is pretty large and it buffers a bit. But so this evening, we're going to touch upon the schedule, our site improvements, and our program and design. So overall, our project schedule, where we're at right now, is the red box right here. We are in July of 2024. Provided that the site plan approval process goes smooth, which I hope and believe it will. We will begin our construction documents in October. We will bid the project next February and start construction in April of 2025. Construction will continue through the end of the summer of 2026. During construction, the Horace Mann School is going to be relocated to 191 Pearl Street, the current Lincoln Elliott School. This was something that was a process that we worked with the Horace Mann community and staff on, and just recently Superintendent Nolan accepted my recommendation, which was a culmination of a lot of work and input from the building committee and from others, both at Newton Public Schools and the staff and my staff. And she made that concurred with that recommendation, presented that to the school committee just I think in the last couple of weeks. So we are going to move them temporarily while we're in construction. We're not going to move them in this April month, just to be clear. We're going to get a jump start on some of the site work. They would move at the end of the summer of 2025. They would be out of 225 Nevada Street, current Horace Mann School, for one school calendar year. And then we would finish our work in that following summer and move them back in advance of the 2026-2027 school year. So that's our project schedule. So this is our site survey, but really I think the important part of this slide is it really just kind of puts in your face where the addition is going to be. We started early on and we looked at a lot of different options. It became quite clear quite early that the best possible location for the addition is what some people refer to as the bowl, if you will. There's a lower portion as shown as a lower plateau on the site plan here. The upper plateau are kind of the fields. You can see the baseball diamond. This is the existing playground, the staff parking lot, and this is the rear of the building. The lower bowl is actually good for a few reasons. It works programmatically, but it also, from a massing standpoint, because it is set down lower, it has far less impact to our abutters. And there's a pretty healthy grade difference, not only in this lower area, but in the transition to our direct abutters. There's also a small addition to the front, and this will make more sense when I show you in the renderings. But this allows us to make our transition into that portion of the building. So site improvements, there's some high-level takeaways, but first I'll orient you. So Linwood Avenue on the left, Nevada Street is out front where the existing bus drop-off is. This is what we're proposing. The staff parking lot has 30 spaces in the rear and 16 spaces in the front. You'll note on the right, no net loss of parking spaces. So that was extremely good. The playground in the upper left-hand corner is existing to remain. It was recently done. And the large purple playground in the middle here is going to be a fully accessible new playground with the sports surfacing, very similar to what we have done at our recent elementary schools, what we're planning for Lincoln Elliott, Countryside, and Franklin. Some other attributes that I think were good about this, we were able to flip the ball field. This was beneficial because it allows a larger portion of the green space to be available for the Horace Mann recess time. What happens is in inclement weather, the infield gets kind of muddy, so it was actually better for Horace Mann to have that flipped. Over on the bowl, we heard from the community there was a desire to maintain the sledding hill. Certainly, it's not something we're thinking about right now, with it being 92 degrees and quite humid, but it's something that is near and dear to their hearts over there. So I think that was a positive for us to be able to sustain and maintain that. We have improvements to exterior lighting. We have hard surface play. So another thing that was important to the Horace Mann community was to get a full-size or a full court basketball court here. So we're able to achieve that, as well as some other hardscape play areas that you see at our other new schools. We have a pretty good landscaping plan. It's a combination of creating visual screening and buffers with our abutters, but also I think creating some opportunities for some natural shading, especially along the playground here. We think that that's going to be a beneficial element for the site. I think that's the big stuff on that. So one of the things we're going to be taking a look at during this process is the Linwood Drive access. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can see in the images here, it's kind of a narrow access point. This is for the access for the staff parking lot, but it's used by students walking to school or biking to school. It's also, this is an area that is used for after school as well. Right now, there's no dedicated sidewalk there. It's a little narrow. So that's one of the things that we're going to be studying and considering. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner here, the kind of creation of a sidewalk, crosswalk, and then a sidewalk that continues onto the site. So that'll be something that we continue to study as we move into design development and construction documents. Tree removal, it's a pretty light tree removal project. So we do have a few that we feel are going to need to go. The first three that you see up top here are actually in order to create the sidewalk that I was mentioning off of Linwood, which is right over on the left here. This is the access into the staff parking lot. In order to create that, we have to widen that area, and those trees are in direct line of that. Same thing, the new sidewalk we'd be creating so that we have a nice pedestrian path to the school. There's two trees here that would need to be removed as well. And then lastly, one over here as part of our site work would need to be removed. There are 4 deciduous trees and 2 evergreen trees. Our tree planting plan, as you can see, we're planting a lot more than we are taking. We've got lots of new trees. Some of these, will certainly, the goal is to, we will have meet the updated tree ordinance. We'll have all of these on site. Some of these will be smaller, evergreen for screening purposes, but a lot of these will be deciduous trees that I think we really want to see them leaf out and provide good shade and all of the other benefits that they afford us. Stormwater management. So you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, our total existing impervious area. Existing is just shy of 79,000 square feet. And what we're proposing is just shy of 82,000 square feet. So we have a net of just under 3,000 square feet that we have to account for. You'll notice that our primary stormwater infiltration system is going right in the center of our site here. And then we have a smaller one down in the lower plateau.
Mr. Morris, can you possibly make that screen a little bit bigger? Because it's hard to read on our end.
Absolutely. The resolution on this isn't wonderful, but if you have specific questions about what any of the fine print says, please do let us know. We can give you the specifics.
Fine. Yeah, now I can read the numbers.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Good.
Yep. Thank you. Go ahead.
You're welcome. Actually, I'm going to zoom out a little bit for this one. I can always zoom back in. All right, so now we're getting into the building plans. I won't go too far into the detail on the demolition, but I just want to, in general, point out the red areas because I think it will help. So in the ground floor plan, we have a very small amount of interior demolition. Basically, from a high level standpoint, our goal with the interior demolition is to use a scalpel as opposed to an axe. We're trying to remove just enough walls and limit the interior modifications just to the point where we can meet our space program. Part of this is trying to ensure that we get all of our spaces at or as close to the MSBA space guidelines as possible. So almost everything you see here is in direct response to that. So ground floor plan, this is the addition, and I'll kind of walk you through the primary spaces. The upper right-hand corner is the cafetorium. You'll see this is our kitchen area directly next to it. The cafetorium comes up to the stage, and the green space just adjacent to it is the music room. I will make this a little bigger. You'll see that this is the existing gymnasium. We're creating PT space, obviously a lobby. The music room has practice rooms like you've seen at our new schools. We have additional restrooms, after school space, and additional support spaces here. One of the things that was important to us with the gym is creating a PE office and adequate storage, because there are currently storage containers outside of the gym over there at 225 Nevada, and those are going to be removed. But those were born out of necessity. There's not enough PE storage space, so that's one of the things that we will be correcting. Going up to the first floor. So we've got a little more demolition that we need to do here. I'll just kind of walk you in to the building. So when you come in the main entrance, you're now in the lobby, your admin is right to the right. What you currently are looking at is the cafeteria. And for those of us who've been around a little while, that used to be the auditorium. What it's now going to be when we're done is the library, the media center. It's carved up a bit today, but this is going to be a wonderful space when we're done. So you'll see that we are opening up the corridor walls, we're opening up the space, and this will be transformed into a very nice media center library space. Modulars are up top. These are obviously going to go. Over on the left, we have a little bit of, you'll start to see where we're separating walls between classrooms. This is so that we can, again, meet those MSBA space guidelines for classroom sizes. And then some of the other modification or interior demo is so that we can create not only the support spaces, staff and student support spaces, but the clustering of these grades and creating those project breakout areas. So coming up to the first floor plan, on the addition side, you can see that we're creating, it's basically a horseshoe design. When you enter through the existing building, you'll come out to the kind of clustered grades that we want, with 3 classrooms in a project area, 3 classrooms in a project area, and then a literacy space in the middle here. Same thing, we've got special education and student and staff support spaces sprinkled in as well, in the addition on the first floor. Oops. And then in the existing building, you can see that our demolition has allowed us to start to right size these classrooms, create the project breakout areas, which creates this kind of sense of grade level community, create more of our special education and student support spaces, and really kind of, align the building from not only a flow, but a space adjacency standpoint that makes a lot more sense. Here you'll see the library that I was mentioning. This is going to be a wonderful space that will really kind of anchor the existing building. And then in the addition, I really think that cafetorium is going to anchor that space out there. Staff room and some conference rooms here as well. So the first floor is coming along great. Up on the second floor, our demolition is fairly straightforward. It's fairly minimal. This is primarily just to get our classrooms and our classrooms right-sized and create this the support spaces we need. And then we have a little bit of work in the knuckle. It looks small on paper, but there's actually a lot of work to do to create the transition between the new building, the old building, and kind of the horizontal and vertical transitions. So you'll see over here in the addition, up at this level, this is, we would be looking at the rooftop. So this is where we're going to have photovoltaics as well as our rooftop HVAC equipment. Got a little bit of work that we have done as of late on this floor plan to improve our restrooms and some of these small support spaces as well. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so these look a little better. All right, so one of the things we did, the committee will probably remember that when I came in before, I was talking about working with the Newton Historical Commission. We continued to do that. One of the things that we presented a couple different options to them, and one of the things that we are always careful of when we're dealing with an existing historic building is the transition from the old building to the new. We presented an option where the transition looked a lot like the old building, and then we presented this one, which was more of a transparent connection. The feedback we got from the Historic Commission was that they preferred the transparent connection, and I think in general the Design Review Committee and the community also agreed with that. You'll see that we not only in this edition, but we've got some work that we've done out front here to create obviously an accessible entrance, but to help define this space a little better. One other thing that we did kind of a little later in the design process is these windows are actually introducing natural light directly into the gym. So while the gym is existing to remain, it was really a great opportunity. Councillor Kelly will remember this from the Design Review Committee. This was a late thought brought by one of the members of the Design Review Committee to punch in some windows here to bring some natural light into that existing gym. So that's a great opportunity, and it's north facing, so that works out well as well. We're creating a small addition over here for the receiving area as well, which is really important. That will allow us to move everything to this side so that we're not having dumpsters and deliveries in the back of the building near the playground. So a slightly different vantage point here. You can see the kind of glass connection and the existing historic building. One of the things that we did do, folks may have seen some earlier renderings. A few of those options really created a very stately entrance down here. It was strong, and it was quite frankly a little too strong. It took away from the historic nature of the existing building. So we softened this entrance a little bit, and I think it looks a lot better. There's some other minor modifications that we've made. So this is around the back of the building. Right here, you'd have your back to the playground. The staff parking lot would be off to the right. The existing building sits up a little bit from grade. So we've got another entrance over here that we are creating a ramp to make this accessible. This is with your back to the staff parking lot. The area to the right is actually the library that you'd be looking out into the playground or into from the playground. Straight ahead, this is the addition. This would be the entrance to the addition in the back. Off to the left is the basketball court, and then the lower plateau just beyond the fence line there. And these are not the exact play features that we're going to have in our playground. Slightly different vantage point. We played around quite a bit with the height of the addition to try to make this transition as smooth as we possibly could. Some earlier options showed a much more dramatic series of ramps because the addition was significantly higher. By lowering that addition and really tightening it up, not only did it become more efficient, the addition itself, but the transition was not as great. So it allowed us to do a much more gradual slope up to the building. Some interior renderings. These are still early. We still got a little bit of work to do, but this would be the new cafetorium. Looking at the stage, the music room would be behind that. To your right would be that lower plateau. This is looking back the other way, so your back is to the stage now. Kitchen off to the right. This is the lunch bunch room. So this is an opportunity for students who maybe need a quieter space to eat, can go in there, but it's important to us that this maintain transparency and kind of openness. We want a space where it can be a little more quiet, but we don't want people to feel isolated either. So this is with your back to the ball field. Off to the left is the lower plateau. The addition is right here beyond these trees. Basketball court right in front of us, and the playground off to the right. bird's eye view, so you can see what we're thinking for solar, as well as our HVAC units, existing roof beyond that. This is the existing conditions, Google Earth image. So this really kind of shows the area that we're going to be siting this addition. It also shows the significant buffer that we have. It may be relatively close, but it doesn't feel it at all when you're out there between our site and the abutters. Another bird's eye view of looking down at our new site. And that is that. I think what I'll do is I'll stop sharing. I see a hand up, but turn it back over to the chair for any questions from the committee.
I just had two, so I think you answered one question. It's a two-story addition.
It is in fact, yes.
And the new entrance that you showed us, is that a new entrance to the school, to the whole school, or are you abandoning the original entrance?
Oh, no. Actually, let me share screen again, because I certainly don't want anybody thinking that. And I definitely don't want the Historic Commission thinking that. So what's happening here, the main entrance is off to the left here. And this is going to be our main entrance, period. There's no question about that. There is an entrance that exists today where this entrance is located, but because we're having to work with the interior elevations to make our horizontal transitions into the addition, we had to kind of blow things up a bit and reset the height of the entrance at this level so that it worked, so it aligned with our floor level, our new floor levels, both in the lobby and then into the addition. So this is going to be an entry point. It allows, I think there's a few things. One, we're going to, Mark and his team, Principal Nardell and his team are going to continue to use the main entrance as the main entrance. But with grade levels at different areas, there are times where it makes sense to have different grade levels come in different doors. We also learned that through COVID, that, kind of separating where students come in can be beneficial at times so that we don't have everybody congregating in one specific area. So it provides a little bit of flexibility, but I certainly don't want anybody thinking that the main entrance isn't going to continue to be the main entrance, because it definitely will.
Thank you. Are there any questions before we open the public hearing? President?
Just a quick question on the opening. Is the principal's office going to be near the main entrance?
Yes. So the principal's office is going to remain at the main entrance. So right now, this is the main entrance right here, and the principal's office, the whole admin suite's right here.
And are there any safety or security, and I realize it's all about balance, but are there any safety or security concerns with having other entrances into the school? I know for a while, at least, it was much more of a tendency just to have a single main entrance. Obviously, ability to egress in case of an emergency or fire, but to funnel everyone through one entrance.
Yeah, it's a great question, Counselor. So I would say in general, we still want to have I think our schools want to have one primary entrance, but having that flexibility is beneficial. What I've seen is that each school is a little unique. Take Zervis, for example. It's got a dual entrance system where students can enter from the back of the building as well as the front, and it has good direct lines of sight from the main office. So they'll actually use both entrances. A school like Horace Mann, what I would envision is they use more than one entrance now, but they use staff to monitor those. It doesn't mean that they would leave these entrances open. Folks would need to it would either be a staff door, or if it were closed, they would be buzzed in through a camera system. So there still is certainly a level of control. And then even above and beyond that, what we often find is once we outfit these buildings with what they need, off hours, even though staff can buzz people in from different locations, they will oftentimes hang signs saying, please come around to, in this case, the Nevada Street main entrance to enter the building, so that they have that kind of increased level of control and security.
That's fine. That explains it. Appreciate you thinking it through so carefully. Thank you.
Any other questions before we open the public hearing? No? Okay, so we'll open the public hearing and I see we have a question. I'm sorry that I can't read things that far away. From Elaine Resnick. If I did that wrong, please correct me and tell us your name and your address.
That was perfect. I'm Elaine Bresnick and the address is 562 California Street. I've lived here since 1981. We are abutters. We live in the house right on Wyoming Road Extension. So the little road that goes into the Carr School Park, one side of that goes into our driveway and the other side goes into our neighbors. So I have two questions. First, I'd like to know what the plan is for the area right against the chain link fence that divides my property from the schoolyard. Some of it has been, sorry, I'm getting distracted by my screen.
I'm sorry.
Some of it has been taken down, but there's an area of big old trees which provide us a lot of shade, but there's still plenty of brush there and an old fox nest, a den, and a number of other sundry things. So that's one question. What's going to happen to the rest of that property up against the fence? And then my second question is, we had been told by someone, and I don't remember who, and it was about a year ago, that the Wyoming Road Extension was planned as the construction access to the site. And as an abutter, that is my driveway there. That's how I get out of my driveway. I'd like to know what we can expect and what your thinking is in terms of us.
Thank you, Elaine. So both very good comments. So on the first one, I might take you up on meeting you over there if you don't mind, because I'd like to lay eyes on the area specifically. We don't, right now, the project isn't carrying specific work over in that area from kind of a landscape perspective, but at the same time, we want to turn over a clean site that looks nice. So certainly if there's things that we can do to improve that benefit our abutters and benefit our school property, we would want to do that. So I'll.
Let me know if you're, pardon me, I'm retired. I'm here a lot, not next week, but let me know. I mean, I'd be happy to meet with you and show you.
Perfect. You will see me. I'll be knocking on your door in just a couple weeks.
Okay,
and then on the second one, I actually have some good news for you. We really were looking at the possibility of using the Wyoming Road Extension as a construction access point when the students were supposed to stay in the building. Because in order to maintain the staff parking lot access and the playground access, we were trying to isolate this portion of the site, which meant that getting construction vehicles in and out over here was extremely difficult. So we were, in our minds, assuming that we were going to need to use the Wyoming Road Extension to gain access into the area where the addition would be. What we're now finding is that with the Horace Mann students moving out, it simplifies that. As you know all too well, I'm preaching to the choir, but the Wyoming Road Extension is not the easiest transition, even if we were to try to make some changes to get from there onto our site. And then even then, we've got to take a hard left and come down a hill to get to our addition area. So we're going to be revisiting that. I do know that we want to, and we've committed to kind of improving the connection between the Wyoming Road Extension and the site, but only for pedestrian and possibly bicyclists. I don't think we're doing paved paths, but there are some kids that might ride their bike through the field. So we want to clean it up and try to make it a safe connection, but certainly not a vehicular one.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'd be happy to meet with you anytime. So please do stop by, and it looks like a beautiful, beautiful addition. I really like the plans.
Thank you, Elaine.
So, yes, we have someone in the room that would like to speak. If you just say your name and your address.
Sure. My name is Amy Pollock Howard. I live at 243 Linwood Avenue. I'm an abutter of that right of way. My driveway and access is not on Linwood Avenue. It is actually through that right of way. And myself and my neighbor, my address and my neighbor's address both access that. We drive in there in and out all the time. And even with, so actually, just for people who are there, I'm on the left side of the right of way from Linwood Avenue when you enter into that parking lot. So we have garages there. Again, that's our only main access, any access by car. Getting in and out of our driveway is a challenge right now. And a major concern. We certainly don't want, we are very concerned about the safety of the children and families and, even, people who walk their dogs and whatever. That is where you're proposing, it looks like the sidewalk is right along that area and right next to my driveway. So that makes the concern for safety even bigger and more. It looks like the walkway, instead of people crossing over that right of way and coming into the school on the right-hand side from Linwood Avenue into through the back, through that back parking lot. For them to cross over from that sidewalk that's being proposed to that other side is going to be like, that's a real major, we're right there. I mean, I don't think I can even see or back up. Another aspect that I'm concerned about is I maintain all of those, the trees and the landscaping and all the other aspects right outside, like on that right of way. So I'd like to have someone, I'm raising a concern about that since it's something that myself, I've been here for 12 years and my predecessors were there in the 80s and we have all maintained the area for over 30 years.
I'm just confused about the area. Is that the area where those trees are coming out?
Yes,
Yes,
and the
okay.
sidewalk.
Okay, got it. Commissioner?
Yeah, so Amy, long time no talk. I was actually in charge with Alex Valcarce. We were in charge of the project back in 2014. So I think we actually talked many years ago. And some of this actually feels like deja vu because this was something that we discussed back then, but never really solved, nor could we kind of squeeze into the project at the time. So I am quite familiar with your access point there, and it does present some challenges. There's no doubt about it. I will say this is something that we're going to continue to study. There were a few options that we looked at, and there are pros and cons to each. And so one option that we had is what's shown on the screen, where the sidewalk is on your side. The other option that we looked at was a crosswalk that led over to the opposite side where my cursor is, and then the sidewalk on the opposite side of your property. There are pluses and minuses to each. That's something that we're going to continue to study. But I think in either direction, if we're going to include that sidewalk, we need to find a way to widen that space, which is why those trees right now are being shown as coming out. But I have your information, and I'm pretty sure I can go back and find your email address, but I'll give you mine. And we can certainly be in touch about that and work together on how we approach this and then what our kind of landscape plan is for that area as well.
Sounds good. I have your email address, so.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this project? Just click the raise hand button and we'll be glad to have you speak. Don't see anybody else. So I think we can close the public hearing. Committee, any comments or questions? I mean, clearly I very much like the way you've worked on this project and managed the differences in the height of the of the property. I think was done very sensitively. Obviously, you have two neighbors that have some very legitimate concerns that you have to work out. So, Counselor Kalis.
I just want to reiterate, kind of what you said, but Commissioner Morris, I think it's fantastic how you've been able to pay attention to the details and the community and work everything in and include as much as you can of what the community was asking. It's so important. And I just appreciate what you're doing here. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kalis. I will say, just a reminder, and I know we all know this, but for anybody here tonight who's not used to these presentations and anybody listening, this feels like the finish line, but it is far from it. We've got a lot of work left to do, a lot more opportunities for the community, for community input. I certainly will be reaching out to both of those abutters, and we're going to continue to do our outreach. We've still got, you know, 9 months of design work left to do, so we've got lots of work. And I'll be taking all this information back and challenging our design review committee with some of these as well to see what we can come up with.
President Loreo.
So I just want to echo both what Chair Albright said about, I really like the way you've used this site. It seems very elegant, very thoughtful. And what Councilor Kalis, Vice President Kalis said about reaching out to the community, being receptive to feedback, making changes to accommodate neighbors, that's really, you do this so well, Commissioner, and your team does it so well because that's the model you set. And I really think that's worth noting. That's how we ought to be doing every single project in this city. And this is not the first school project or other project you've done where you exemplify that. So I'll just have my word of thanks.
Thank you.
Counselor Kelly.
Yes, thanks. I too, I guess I just can't get enough updates on the schools, and from Josh Morrison, I echo everyone else's thanks for how well you do it and what a good listener you are. Like when we just had that neighbor who you spoke with 10 or 12 years ago come on, and how responsive you are. Being on the design review committee, I'll say I have a lot of confidence that moving from schematic and site plan approval, that I do have confidence some of these sticking points will get worked out. Madam Chair, do we need to make a motion to approve this the schematic design and site plan at this meeting within committee?
Yes.
Would you like me to make that motion, or would you like to, because I think it's one of these Ward 2, 3 things, but you're the chair, so if you would like me to, I'd be happy to move that.
Please do. So you moved approval?
Sorry?
Moved approval, Counselor Kelly?
I couldn't hear what you said.
You moved approval is what I'm
I
asking.
do move approval.
Me too.
Yes, we haven't put the other one in yet. So let's do one and then we'll do the other.
Yeah, this is just schematic design and site plan approval.
I think we should make note in our approval of the 2 legitimate concerns raised by the neighbors that really affect the site plan, and Commissioner Morse has offered to work them out.
Yes.
I think they should be noted in the approval. Yeah. So any other comments? Okay, all those in favor say, we have to do a roll call. So all those in favor, and you will tell us how we ask us how do we vote.
Counselor Albright,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Gentile,
Aye.
Counselor Getz, Counselor Danberg,
Aye.
Counselor Lorena,
Aye.
and Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
7-0, the motion passes.
Okay, so we have one other item to approve on this item to vote for. It's 263-24. Her Honor, the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend the sum of $31,578,632 and authorize a general obligation borrowing of an equal amount for the construction of the Horace Mann project, and authorization to apply any premium received upon the sale of the bonds or notes less the cost of preparing and issuing and marketing them, and any accrued interest received upon the delivery of the bonds or notes to the cost of the project, and to reduce the amount authorized to be borrowed for the project by like amount. The amount authorized to be borrowed by and under this order shall be reduced to the extent that any grants are received by the city from the Massachusetts School Building Authority for this project. So Counselor Kelly, do you have a motion for this one? Okay.
A quick question, Commissioner. Do you expect to get MSBA funds here? And if so, how much?
We will not be getting any MSBA funds on this project.
So this is kind of a placeholder, as it were, that you put in all the time, right?
It's a standard language, yes, that we work with the comptroller on.
I'm fine with it. I just want the public to be aware that we're as a city fronting the entire 31 million, and it's coming out of our general borrowing, not a debt exclusion.
That is correct.
Still a great project, still want it.
Okay, anybody else? Counselor Kelly, do you have a motion for us?
I do, if you think we're ready, or I'll make it now, and if we're not ready, if there are other comments, do it later, but I make a motion to approve this request for $31,578,632.
Thank you. Any comments? No, so we can call a roll on this one as well.
Counselor Albright.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Getz. Aye. Counselor Danberg.
Aye.
Counselor Loreno.
Aye.
And Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner, and all of you. Stephanie Gilman, Alex Belcarsi, and Stephen, I can't read your last name. Thank you very much for all the work you guys did on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item, 259-24. Alexander Cogan, 56 Marcellus Drive, Newton, petitioning for a drain extension in Edgefield Road, starting in York Road from a new drain manhole and extended 152 foot northeasterly for the purpose of providing an overflow connection for their on-site drainage system. Petitioner to pay entire cost. This was heard at our last meeting, and we had a request that the petitioner let the neighbors know about this connection, and to see if anybody else wanted to join. As we understand it, information did go out to all the neighbors. And I don't think anybody took up the offer. Counselor Getz.
Is the developer going to speak, the one from?
Mr. Cogan, are you here? So this is.
Yes, I am.
So I since the Marcellus Drive had a familiar ring to it, you are the same gentleman we spoke to about the Churchville project.
Yes, we did.
Got it. So go ahead, Mr. Cogan, if you can fill us in on what's been happening.
We've sent certified mail and dropped off letters at all the butters along the proposed extension, and we have not received any responses. So nobody has contacted us, so we basically asked to be put back on the agenda for this meeting.
Counselor Getz.
So I'm actually just started the process of knocking on some of the doors. And everybody, I spoke with someone at Ford York, and they are interested, in terms of what's being proposed, whatever it's called, the extension, the actual pre-piping or, whatever it's called. And then I also spoke to the residents at 20 York. So they want to know more. And so I need to continue to do this. I assume, is John able to speak to this in terms of the timeline? Because I think people are interested, and I'd love to see a copy of the letter that was sent to the residents.
We uploaded that letter to the record.
I had it, it's in so far that.
I think we
Okay,
saw
it's in
it.
there.
Yeah.
All right. Just because anybody that I speak to about it, they do seem interested. So we need to continue with this process. I mean, I'm asking specifically going to every single abutter and asking them, it sort of sounds as if, once it's explained to them, you know, in the sense of the opportunity just to be pre-warned or whatever, you know, the terminology is for the opening or the, you know, the access to that drain, they do seem to be interested.
Mr. Dagley, do you have comments to add?
Typically, we require that overflow connection to be put in to every property from the main extension to the sideline of the road. That way the applicant in the future does not have to dig out the street. And if they choose not to connect, that stub is there, it's capped. There's no issue of any problems like that, but in the future, if they do decide to tie in, the pipe is already there.
So it sounds like you're planning on doing that, right?
So you
Yeah,
put a stub in,
Yeah.
with
Every-
accessible to each person on the street.
Yes, we typically require this stub to the property line in front of everyone's house. That way they have the ability to tie in at some point.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear, does the developer understand that that's his responsibility?
Ms. Daglin, I think our plan only provided for a main extension. I don't think we included any lateral connections.
Yeah, the lateral is very simple to make. It just tapping the pipe and then running a lateral out to the property line. That could be worked out in the field with the inspector.
I'm not okay, Mr. Dagley, and I appreciate that. But I want to have very clear directive here. The expectation is that homeowners will be able to tap in at any time on their own, at their own expense, obviously. I want to make sure that this gets built so that's done. So how do we do that?
So, Mr. Dagley, do you require the stub for each lateral?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you require the stub be put in for each lateral that could connect?
Yes, we require a stub to each property, pretty much almost in the center line of the frontage. That way they have an easy point to connect that.
Okay, so that's part of what you require in the requirements for the developer. You will make that clear that they have to do that.
Yes. And
Okay.
that could also be in your condition as well,
Yes.
just to memorialize it.
As long as we put in the conditions so it's crystal clear, I don't want, no fault of developer, I just want to be very clear so everybody has the same expectation.
Right. Councilor Gentile? Councilor Gentile, do you want to speak?
That's why I had my hand up, was I was going to suggest that we make it a condition of the approval clear that there would be lateral stubs, so there's no question, so.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Cogan, do you understand? Is there any questions you have about this?
No, we don't have any questions.
Okay. So whose ward is this? Is this yours? Yep. Make the motion? Sure. Oh, we left it open last time?
Yeah.
All right, so is there anybody else who wants to speak on this project? The public hearing was left open, so we can accept public comment if anybody wants to speak. You can just click the raise hand button and we will recognize you. And I think not. Okay, and Councilor Getz? We'll close the public hearing now.
Okay, so we're closing the.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No.
Okay.
It's up to
All right,
you.
so just to make the motion that we approve the drainage section. That he's
With the
requesting
condition.
with the condition, absolutely,
That the lateral
Yeah.
stub be,
be added to the approval.
yeah. Okay, any questions about that? Comments? No? All right, we have to have a roll call on this as well. All right, so we will call the roll.
Councilor Albright,
Aye.
Councilor Kelly,
Aye.
Councilor Gentile,
Aye,
Councilor Getz,
Aye.
Councilor Danberg,
Aye.
Councilor Loreno,
Aye.
and Councilor Kalis.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, Mr. Cogan, this will go to the full council on August 12th for final approval.
Recording stopped.
Why does it keep doing that?
Recording in progress.
So, and, so you don't have to come to that meeting, but that's when the vote will happen. Also,
Okay, thank you.
okay,
Have a good night.
Is Juanita here yet? Yes. Okay, our next item is 105-24. Counselor Albright, on behalf of the Public Facilities Committee, requesting an update from the Director of Sustainable Materials Management regarding progress on recycling, Newton's waste contracts, progress on composting, and other essential aspects of waste management. Oh, there you are. We're here. We're joined by Juanita Traber from the DPW. What is your title, Juanita? I forget.
I am the Director of Sustainable Materials Management.
Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me. I see that I'm able to share my screen. One moment. Let's see. Are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Are you seeing the right screen? Like the full presentation?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the right screen.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Public Facilities Committee for having me. I give an update on where things stand approximately every 6 months when the committee invites me, and I'm always happy to provide an update. I have a photo here from winter. Hopefully we were all thinking cooler thoughts than today. So I always like to walk through and just define what the scope of services we provide is and what kind of the city responsibilities are and what contractor responsibilities are. So just starting at a very high level, we provide curbside collection services, trash and recycling. Those are performed by Waste Management. That is our current contractor. There is also a so we provide residential service, and then there is a fee-based nonprofit service. We provide yard waste collection with in-house DPW staff that we are in our 3rd year of that service. The waste management contract includes dumpster collection services that service municipal buildings, including schools and some residential properties. And then we operate the Resource Recovery Center, the drop-off recycling center for residents. And we also now do street sweeping within the Sustainable Materials Management Division. So our staffing, I've been asked about this before, so I like to spell that out. For our management level and administrative, we have myself, a superintendent, and an assistant superintendent. We have a waste diversion coordinator, who is really the person that is tasked with education and enforcement. And then we have a part-time administrative assistant for various administrative tasks. Our street sweeping crew is a foreman and 6 sweeper drivers. Our yard waste team is a foreman and 5 drivers. And our resource recovery center has 4 full-time staff, although the handyman role is really not based at that site. That role is kind of on the go, going and doing jobs across the city. But at the site, we have an attendant and 2 equipment operators. So in our residential curbside collection suite of services, we have weekly trash collection, 64-gallon blue cart, overflow bags, or additional carts are available for a cost. Weekly single stream recycling in a 64-gallon green cart, and yard waste is performed 38 weeks per year. We also provide bulky waste pickup service at a cost of $20 per item. And then we don't have a good name for it, but appliance, electronics, scrap metal pickup service for $25 per item. And then we also have mattress and box spring recycling for $60 per item from curbside collection. And then we also have our organics subscription preferred vendor program, which I'll go into greater detail in future slides. At our resource recovery center, this is a staffed site that is open either 5 or 6 days a week. We have the summer hours with the union contract. So during summer, we're open Tuesday through Saturday. But outside of summer hours, we are open Monday through Saturday. We collect over 25 material streams. We hold 18 household hazardous waste events annually, 2 annual document shredding and drug take-back events. We have the swap shop and book shed reuse programs that really operate in the warmer months, I would say around May through October. And then our most recently added collections were year-round yard waste drop-off and then mattress recycling drop-off for $35 per item. So I always get asked, where does our trash go? Where does our recycling go? So in FY24, this is good timing for this meeting because I had a lot of really fresh data. So we had 16,700 tons of trash that was collected curbside go to Wheelabrator Millbury, and that is a waste to energy facility that the city has a contract with. Our single stream recycling, we collected 8,030 tons in FY24, and that goes to the Waste Management Avon Materials Recovery Facility. Our yard waste is staged first at the Resource Recovery Center, then hauled to commercial composting sites through a vendor. And then all other material streams that are collected have different independent vendors. I'd like to show this slide, the waste disposal composition. That is a study done by Mass DEP at waste to energy facilities every 3 years. So the most recent data that we have is from 2022. So this particular characterization is of the Millbury facility. So it's the thing that we have to what is in our trash. We don't have a specific audit that we've done just for the waste collected in Newton. I would say that this is probably pretty representative. Organics, notably, is 33% of the waste stream that goes to Wheelabrator. So that's definitely a material stream that we have been focusing on. And again, I'll get to that momentarily. In Massachusetts, we are facing a solid waste disposal capacity crisis. It's a slow burning crisis like many other crises. For context, Massachusetts has the highest tipping fees for trash disposal in the entire country. And that has been true for a number of years, although Connecticut, we used to kind of run toe-to-toe with Connecticut, but we have surpassed them in our costs. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection develops a solid waste master plan every 10 years. They set goals that I would say kind of set the baseline for expectations, and then municipal governments can either adopt these or, you know, kind of work toward them in various ways with policies and programs. Mass DEP also did a waste capacity study in 2019 and really quantified this capacity crisis. And basically that more and more facilities are closing each year. And when that happens, the trash that was going to those facilities now needs to go somewhere else. So the system is just very tight, and I would even call it fragile. And ultimately, this is resulting in more and more trash that is getting exported to other states, which puts us in, I think, a precarious position. Newton isn't exporting its trash, but you know, someday, years down the road, we might find ourselves with that being the only option. Waste from Massachusetts is going as far as Alabama, Michigan, North Carolina, South Carolina. So it's really something to be mindful of and kind of paying attention to more of the reduction side of the equation instead of shipping it further and further away. So the impacts that Newton has seen on this capacity shortfall, we are currently in a 20-year disposal contract with the Wheelabrator facility. That contract ends on June 30th of 2028. There is no such thing as a 20-year contract anymore. We do have quite favorable terms right now compared to the open marketplace. The longest contract terms are now 5 years, which is not surprising because things are just kind of evolving more quickly. And vendors are not willing to commit to long-term contracts or longer than 5 years because there's so many variables that can change. Again, if one facility were to become obsolete or, you know, need to close its doors, it would really shift the supply and demand of the entire system. And we've seen disposal costs in other communities that have increased by 40 or more percent in long-term contracts that they've entered into within the last 1 to 2 years. So it's certainly something that we're paying attention to, and I'll get to more about kind of where we're at thinking about the 2028 contract ending in just a couple of minutes. So with recycling markets, this is always kind of another point of interest. I like to highlight that mainstream stories in major news outlets that recycling is broken or pointless are grossly exaggerated and sensationalized. I will fully be the first in line to say that the recycling system is flawed, but it is functioning. And it's not going to get us to zero waste. We can't recycle our way out of our waste problem, but it is still a much, much better option than disposal from an environmental perspective. So we've seen our pricing for recycling fluctuate a lot in the last 5 years. In 2018, that was when there was a huge global supply and demand shift that was caused by China's import ban on materials that they had previously been taking gladly and paying a very decent amount for. When they stopped taking that material, it disrupted markets in the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, Japan, really worldwide in any kind of highly developed infrastructure for recycling. We also saw a big supply and demand shift happen during the pandemic. Recycling markets went up. There was more value for the scrap materials that were collected from recycling systems. And there was more domestic demand, and that has maintained, basically filling the gap that was formed when China stopped taking all of that material. So it took a few years after the 2018 import ban that China put in place. But there was certainly business opportunities seen in the US and in other countries wanting that material and putting it to its highest use. So I like to show kind of our costs. So the prices fluctuate quite a bit. I didn't include it on here, but in FY22, so that was still when we were in pandemic times, the recycling markets were so far up that we actually made $72,000 that year on our recycling. And then it swung dramatically in the other direction in FY23, where we paid $600,000, but recycling markets were slightly up this past fiscal year, so that we paid less in FY24 than we did in FY23. But regardless of how much we're spending on recycling, I like to really highlight how much we're actually spending on trash disposal, which is over double what we pay for our recycling. So I think that should be much more of the focus than kind of whether or not recycling is worth it based on cost. There's a lot of reasons that recycling is worth it, not least of which is that the Mass DEP has banned those materials that are in our recycling stream from going to disposal facilities. So in a way, we are required to recycle. So I've kept up this slide for a number of years. It really shows, this goes back to the data that we have as far back as FY98. And so I like to point out that we reached peak trash in FY04, and it's really been going down pretty steadily since then. And there's a number of reasons for that. I would say the biggest of those reasons is dematerialization. Everything that we're buying and using is smaller or lighter or thinner. And so even without, I would say, really avid waste reduction practices, just any average person's trash weight has gone down just because manufacturers of consumer goods are using less and less materials. And that goes into, all of their calculations of pricing and transport and all of those things. We implemented the CART program that was really a limit for the first time in Newton on how much trash could be set out at the curb. That was implemented in FY11. That might be a little off, actually. I think it was more FY10. But what's interesting to me in seeing the cart system be implemented is that we seem to have already been at a place where that limit didn't make a tremendous impact in kind of decreasing our tonnage. Perhaps if that had been implemented 5 years sooner, it would have made a much starker difference more quickly. But we did see a drop a few years after the CART program was put in place, and I don't have an explanation for that drop. We stayed pretty stagnant until the pandemic when we saw an increase in trash generation. And since that time, it has kind of gone into a steady decline or back to that plateau that we were at before. Recycling tonnage is also very similar and interesting. I would say that while we've collected more and more volume of material, again, the weight of that material is much less. So if you think about 10 or 15 years ago, there was a lot more newspaper in the recycling, and now it's much more plastic bottles, which weigh a lot less. I'm sure lots of folks are putting a lot of cardboard into their carts, but we do get about 25 tons of cardboard down to the recycling center every month. So I don't think all of it is going into folks' recycling carts as far as like the weight point of view. So looking at organics collection. So I start with our curbside option that the city has a partnership with Black Earth Compost on. So we call this our preferred vendor program. In 2019, the city put out an RFP and requested vendors to offer pricing on behalf of residents. So there was a vetting process. We only received one proposal at that time, which was Black Earth Compost. And we've been working with them since then. We started when they had about 400 subscribers, and we've grown the program to 3,000 subscribers in 5 years. So could be better, could be worse. It's about 10% of households right now that are subscribers to that program. It is an out-of-pocket cost for residents. It's approximately $60 per 6 months. There is a one-time cost for a starter kit of $38. However, right now, my bottom point is that we have funds that were secured in the 2022 Economic Development Law that was passed in the legislature, up to $70,000 that is paying for those starter kits. So those are free to residents right now. And that funding and program took effect in February of this year. So we have seen a slight uptick from at least that initial kind of cost barrier being eliminated. Going back to this model that the city put pricing in place on behalf of residents, it is based on a threshold system. So when we reach 5,000 subscribers to this program, the price would drop for everyone because it's just kind of a economy of scale for the vendor. So far, we have diverted 2,723 tons of food waste. That's cumulative since the program started in 2019, which is not nothing. I would say in our overall tonnage, we're not seeing some significant drop from this program, but I think it's certainly buffering us against any type of increase. So our organics collection drop-off program, we started that also in the fall of 2019, and it initially was just at the Resource Recovery Center until this year when we executed an expansion program for our drop-off, for this drop-off option. So there's 3 locations. One is on Albemarle Road. It's right by the Little League Stadium or field. And then there's one at City Hall on War Memorial Circle, right by the bike rack. And then there's one on Wheeler Road that is right across the street from the entrance of Oak Hill Middle School. And we opted to use Big Belly secure boxes to prevent animals, pests, that type of thing. We keep these containers locked, and the reason for that is just to prevent them from being used as a trash can, so avoiding contamination. We have a registration process in place that hasn't been too onerous. We've not heard any negative feedback about this program whatsoever. It allows 24-hour access to these bins, which is far more convenient than following the recycling center hours that we had for several years before. We've had 420 individual users register, and we've implemented a new weighing scale on the bins, and that's happened just within the last couple of weeks. So we don't have data yet on it, but I'm very excited that we'll start getting some data for what we're diverting through this drop-off program. I've been very pleased with the, again, lack of kind of negative feedback. We've heard next to nothing, either positive or negative, but we know folks are using them. About 2 months after we started this program in late January, there was enough material being collected that we started collecting twice a week at each of these containers. And so we haven't heard anything about odors this summer, nothing about pests, and we know that they're still getting a lot of use. So I include a street sweeping update just because that is under our division. We do have a fair weather year-round sweeping program. We're at full staff this year. Last year we weren't. And we have swept through the entire city 7 times already this calendar year, which is more than we've done in the past. Most of the village squares are swept daily or every other day. And then bike lanes are swept twice a week, especially this time of year. You know, there's a lot of users of those. We have installed sensors on the brooms to track the road miles that we've actually swept. We have a vacuum sweeper that is deployed weekly to watershed areas to get fine materials that are more likely to enter waterways. And then we've been really tuned into our MS4 permit requirements for stormwater, that we do get a certain amount of credit for the MS4 permit for our street sweeping program. And we've been working to optimize that as much as possible to increase that credit. And then we have had this street sweeping parking ban area in Nonantum that was made permanent in February of 2023. And it's been working really well. I know there's some discussion in that neighborhood to potentially expand that, which goes through Traffic Council. So we receive grant funding from Mass DEP. They have a pretty robust grant program for municipal governments. The most notable one is the Recycling Dividend Program. This is an incentive program based on best practices that DEP has mapped out, and municipalities can implement those best practices and earn points in different categories. And so what I wanted to highlight is that for the first time in 4 years, I didn't show all the data going back, but for the first time in 4 years, our anticipated reward award is lower than previous years. So the previous 4 years, it was $68,000 that we were receiving. And now it has come down. And the reason for that is really that Mass DEP has raised their bar. And so they're trying to make it more challenging for municipalities to get those points and kind of pursue, I would call them more advanced practices and policies in an effort toward waste reduction. Some eligible expenses that those grant funds go to pay for, education and outreach programs, project-based temporary staffing, improving school recycling and adding food waste diversion programs in our schools. And then, so DEP is incentivizing further waste reduction by shrinking cart size or moving to a trash as a utility model, pay as you throw. That's something that we used to get at least 2 points on. And this or last year was the first year that we got 0 points for it. So they're just kind of raising that bar. And since our program has, I would say we were on the cutting edge 15 years ago, and now it's like, okay, they're nudging municipalities in the direction of trying to make those big programmatic changes. So along those lines, kind of looking at our historic program. So I mentioned before that the CART program was introduced in citywide in October of 2009. And so again, that introduced a trash cart or trash limit for the first time in the city. And then the only thing that we have done kind of like curbside system wide since that point in time in an effort of waste reduction is in February of 2020, we put a collection fee in place for bulky waste and white goods, which did bring down the number of pickup requests tremendously, like 80%. I wanted to highlight our education and outreach efforts. So we have an app, and also that comes with website tools, widgets that are on our webpage that are well used. We call that program the Recycle Right Newton app. We have about 3,500 regular users of that. And then there's many more folks that just use the tools that are on the website. We use our 311 system extensively for cart repairs, bulky items, and missed pickup requests. The great new platform that was recently launched, GoGov, allows residents to respond to requests. And the feedback that we've received already from residents is helping us to improve our operations, investigate what may have gone wrong if something was closed when the work wasn't done or something along those lines. This summer, we have a water bill insert that is going out, educating folks about household hazardous waste days, recycling, highlighting our app, and some ways that they can better manage yard waste and clearing storm drains, things along those lines. We also have the Curbside Recycling Education Project. This is the 4th year of this project, and we anticipate completion of getting all of the carts decaled. This is the decal, the image in the corner, onto every cart, every recycling cart in the entire city. We expect to finish that this year. So for long-term planning, the mayor has allocated $100,000 for development of long-term sustainable materials management planning and analysis. Their contract execution is in process, and I anticipate work will start in September. What we're going to look at is determining the amount and type of waste generated by each sector within the city, trying to get kind of a better perspective of how much waste is being generated across the city, not just from the residential sector, which is really what we focus on in DPW. We're going to evaluate the Resource Recovery Center and how we could maximize that site as much as possible. Any recommendations for waste diversion in the commercial sector? There will be a stakeholder engagement process and also looking at our existing contracts. Last time I presented to the Public Facilities Committee was in October, and it was about this technical assistance grant that was looking at our existing program and really with an eye on what to do about our next contract, our next hauling contract. Our current hauling contract expires in June of 2025. And so I presented a lot of recommendations that came out of that report. And so this was just the cover of it. That's available on our website to review. And then that brings us to our RFP process. So one of the recommendations in that technical assistance grant report, the recommendations report, was to pursue a request for proposal process, a more competitive approach than what we have done in the past. So trash, recycling, and organics collection services, including yard waste, are exempt from 30B in the state. So we are not bound to regular procurement requirements. And so it gives us a lot of flexibility, and that's really the intention of why it is exempt, is to, I would say, prevent kind of monopolization from the private sector and give municipalities as much flexibility as they need. So the RFP that we put out in February was a collaborative effort with Brookline. The proposals were received at the end of April, and our analysis and discussion with Brookline and the vendors is ongoing. We're actually interviewing vendors this week, and the services included in the RFP were curbside trash collection, curbside recycling collection, trash disposal. So that's getting at that 2028 expiration of our contract. And we included some kind of stopgap measures that we were trying to get pricing on and better understand the marketplace basically for those last 2 years, and whether or not a hauler could accommodate for the first 3 years where we're locked into our trash going to a specific destination, recycling processing at a material recovery facility, bulky item pickup, white goods collection. We're interested in getting pricing for our yard waste collection, understanding where our current internal program sits based on, compared to private market pricing. Organics collection service, so curbside organics collection service, again, understanding the marketplace and what that pricing looks like, dumpster service, and mattress recycling. We're really in the early stages of this, so I'm not at a point where I can share pricing details or even the specific vendors that we're meeting with, but we are pursuing a 5-year contract. So when we have this better fleshed out, kind of what the path forward is, we'll certainly come back to public facilities and also to the finance committee, seeking that 5-year contract approval. And I always like to highlight the bigger picture. I'm just about to wrap up. Newton is a statewide leader on advancing product stewardship laws. Mayor Fuller has testified in numerous hearings in favor of extended producer responsibility laws and the expansion of the bottle bill. Newton has a resolution that was passed in 2021 by the city council that has the city's support for this type of policy mechanism at the state level. And I chair the Massachusetts Product Stewardship Council. And our goal is to get paint EPR passed this session. And what that would do is establish a convenient and sustainably funded collection network for unwanted paint, which is really a nuisance material. And while it's not the biggest, it's not a big problem in our waste stream, the principle is that the producer of paint is responsible for creating that collection network and managing the funds that would come in from that program. And this has been successfully implemented in 10 other states, including every state around us besides New Hampshire. And so I'm hoping in the last weeks of the legislature that the paint EPR bill will get passed, fingers crossed. And then with that, I will wrap up. And I'm available for questions, of course.
Wow. That's was a fabulous presentation, and thank you so much for putting it together for us. I just want to ask one question about organics, because I'm new to the organics stream of separating out my organics. I started with your drop off by City Hall, and then I went to the curbside, and I'm impressed with the weight. I mean, the organics is so much heavier than the trash, and to get that organic trash stream, it feels like we only have 3,000 households in it. I mean, it feels to me like we could save a lot of money if we just made it mandatory. I wanted to ask you what you thought about that.
So from a tonnage disposal perspective, we would save money. But if the city were to adopt a full curbside collection program, which presumably would need to be in place as opposed to, locally banning food waste from the trash and then expecting folks to pay an out-of-pocket cost for it. The cost to send a truck around to every single household would really negate any savings that we would see on the disposal side. So it's not really, I don't think that the cost should be the driver. I think it's much more about the principle, and I would say eventually that would hold true, because again, kind of the writing on the wall is that our disposal costs will continue to rise. I'm talking the next 5, 10, 20 years. There is no going down for our disposal prices. Like that is just not going to happen. So I agree with you wholeheartedly in getting more of this material out of the waste stream that has a higher and better use. I think the adoption rate right now of 3,000 households is, I would say it's quite common. So it's very representative that there's, you know, say 10% of the population that is very tuned into this issue, really cares about it, really willing to change habits. And, you know, at the beginning, it may feel like an inconvenience or again, kind of like a big change within your household. There's many folks that aren't willing to do that. And so I think we would need to figure out some sort of phased in approach, perhaps making it voluntary with more collection options than we have right now, before going to a full mandate. The example that I think of is Cambridge. So they were fortunate in receiving quite a bit of DEP grant funding to scale a program. And their full citywide program started in, I think, 2018, maybe 2019. And even within 3 or 4 years of free compost collection citywide, they were only seeing about 30 or 40% of households participating. And they've done a lot of work to try and increase that. And I think the last number I heard recently was 50% participation. But so they're not at the point of feeling comfortable banning it from their trash disposal. But I think slowly but surely things will move in that direction. I just don't think right now, I think that would be too much of a shock to the system, like right now.
Okay. All right, well, we have others with questions. I'll start with Counselor Kalis and then Danberg and then Getz.
Thank you. Ms. Trieber, this was a fantastic presentation. I really appreciate it. I love all the depth and detail. I want to go back to organics as Councillor Albright was talking about. Do you know what the percentages of commercial versus residential that we're collecting for that is contracted to be collected for organics?
Within Newton, like with Black Earth Compost?
Yes. Do we have any commercial?
I know that there are commercial customers of theirs, but I don't have any of that data. It's certainly something that with this long-term planning project that we want to do more analysis on the commercial sector, that I can be sure to highlight and try and get more data on. Right now, I don't have a good perspective of that.
Okay.
And perhaps Black Earth might be willing to share, you know, not their customer list, but maybe just like a number of like pickups that are happening each week or something.
Yeah, because I just feel like that could be a huge opportunity. I think as you're going into this negotiation for 2028 and you're already starting it now, I don't know that we can impact it, but getting more organics out of the system, I think would be great. And although you've made progress in so many areas, I feel like organics has really not made the progress that it could. And I feel like it's partly due to marketing. I mean, all that you mentioned was the insert. Are you at fairs and festivals that we have within Newton? Do we have any tell a friend type of promotion type thing that we can be doing?
That's a great idea. Kind of like a more robust referral system. We don't have that in place right now. I can certainly have a conversation with Black Earth to know if they've had any other municipal programs or municipal customers that have done that. But I know in their kind of private business side, they certainly have done that before. And we can use our grant funds toward that effort. So I think that's something that I can absolutely investigate. I think that's a great idea. And just to clarify something that you said, so we are currently negotiating for, I would say, while we're including the disposal piece, which does expire in 2028, our hauling contract expires next year. So that's really kind of more the urgency behind our process right now. So I just want to clarify that a big chunk of what we're negotiating currently starts July 1 of 2025.
Okay. So do you have a booth at some of the village days and
yes, absolutely. We are always at I don't know about the village days. I think those are less I don't know how to get my foot in the door of those. I would certainly be willing to talk
can
about
help with
that
that.
with city councilors, but we're always at the
Yeah.
Harvest Fair. We run the Pumpkin Smash in the fall, which is, I would say, very popular for families and really one of our biggest events to try and draw attention to and raise awareness of the need to divert food waste from the trash. And then recently with the Earth Day Festival that has been happening the past couple of years, we certainly have a presence there. And we've even, this year, since we have the free starter kits, we had a bunch at the ready. So in case somebody wanted to sign up right there, they could just take a bin home with them instead of having the added step of stopping and picking them up. But I completely agree with you. We try and promote it as much as possible. We put it in the mayor's newsletter about twice a year. And I'm very open to any ideas for kind of how to improve marketing. I think the refer a friend idea is a great one.
And who is typically at the booths?
It's primarily our waste diversion coordinator. Her name is Allison Kelly.
Okay, so what I'm gonna stop at this, but I would suggest is you get some of the counselors involved and get them to sit at those booths. And I'll be the first to say, I'll be there and I'm gonna recruit Council President Laredo. But at one of the fairs and festivals that we can both do together, yeah, there you go. I know. We'll be there and we'll be recruiting people because I think we're at least visible and people know who we are. And I think this is real. I mean, people come to our house and they always ask us, where are you putting those fruits and vegetables? And we tell them and they're like, oh, we want to do that. And then they don't do it. So I think we can get a lot of.
All right.
That's excellent.
You instructed me to do something, and as usual, when you instruct, I will do it. So I'm very happy to join you.
You can both get dressed up as green cards, little green cards.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you very much. But we'll be happy to help. Seriously, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot too.
Yeah, and
Thank you, Ms. Tree, and recruit us.
all the counselors can feed you the dates of all the fairs. So we can get you that data. Counselor Danberg, you're next.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I want to thank my colleagues who preceded me, both you, Madam Chair, and Councillor Kalis for all the comments that you've made about the important topic of organics and removing organics from the waste stream. I'm in Edgartown right now, and this is the bin that everyone on the island has on their counter. And we, of course, have to ship all of our trash and all of our recycles off island and have had to do that for 50 years. And so we're acutely aware of the inconvenience and the cost of trash and recycling and organics. And organics in Newton at 33% of weight is a huge and expensive. If it's 1.3 million, I think was the number that I recall. 450,000, if I do the math, $1,000 is what it costs for us to put our potato peels and our banana peels into the trash. And it really needs to stop. I think that Councillor Kalis's comment about marketing being an important piece of this is important. I count me in for a shift at the Village Days. I will gladly do that too. And I think that part of it is awareness. Most people that I speak to and explain how heavy organic waste is when they throw it into the trash, if they just put coffee grinds every day into their trash, they think of how much that weighs instead of just throwing it out onto their flowers. But these things, on the vineyard, you either bring your organics to a central location, or you have a bin in your own yard, or are in your, on your premises, where, you can create in a few short months and sometimes weeks, wonderful, loam that you can use in your own garden. And that's what we do here. So let's, do whatever we can do to help you, to expand the organics. Not that, trash and recycling aren't important too, but I think that there's so much room, in organic, expanding our organics collection. And, Black Earth, which my husband and I do in Newton, is a terrific program. It is $60 for 6 months, but well worth it if you can afford it. And if we can get that cost down to $50, I think even more people will do it. So I will stop there and give other people an opportunity to speak, but let's go to it for the organics. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Gates, you're next.
Okay, thank you for the composting. I actually grew up in a family that composted, so I know it well. But I actually am one of the families that we dump at Rumford. I take my compost to Rumford from the house, and I go a couple times a week. I wonder whether or not you have any way to assess the people that do what I'm doing, in terms of, the tonnage that's coming through Black Earth versus the people that go to Rumford and dump at Rumford. Because I think that there's going to be quite a few people that do that, so that's a good assessment to have. And then I just generally speaking, you were talking about the last time we put in the cart system. Are we due for another iteration of the carts? Are we going to get half-sized carts coming up? I mean, is there a plan for that? Is there anything that's coming, to incentivize people to, put out less trash? And lastly, the piece that you were talking about, the new contract, when are we going to hear about that? And, is it something that is going to be cost saving? What is the big picture for that?
Those are all great questions. So I'll start with Rumford. So we don't have the registration process in place that we do at the other sites, that like the expansion sites. So we don't know how many users are using the Rumford bins. We do know that the use has steadily increased. We now have 2 containers that are picked up 3 times a week at that site. And I had mentioned that we just installed some kind of new technology that is like a scale with a Wi-Fi connection, to get weights, like live weights of what's in those bins. I'm working with the company that is installing that technology to try and get more of like a cumulative number. Right now they can tell us like the live weight, but we need to do the math. And so, they're a startup. I really like what they're doing, and they're kind of in the right place at the right time, definitely. So we don't have the data yet to share, but it was just installed in the last couple of weeks. So I would expect at my next update, I would have more data about what is being collected at the drop-off sites. And then what we collect at the curbside is it's really an estimate. Like Black Earth just uses a number from an audit that they have done on the material that they collect curbside. And they estimate that when they pick up a bin, it's 12 pounds. And so that's really where we extrapolate the numbers from, for the tonnage, the cumulative tonnage that has been collected through that program. Let's see, what was your second question? I know the third one was about the RFP process.
The actual containers. Are we getting?
Oh, right. Okay. So our curbside program. So we looked at kind of what it would look like to make a big programmatic change in that process for the technical assistance grant recommendations report. And so some of those options that were explored are included in that, but we actually expect to do more analysis in this long-term planning project to drill down into some data even further there are options, like certainly what you said about cutting the cart size in half, or even, just dropping down a size. So we have 64-gallon carts, there's a 48-gallon cart, then there's a 35-gallon cart. And there are other communities, I think certainly smaller than us, that have a full pay-as-you-throw system where you need to go to the store and buy your trash bags, and then that's what is set outside or put into your cart. But it helps in a lot of ways in realigning incentives. So you have to pay for the volume that you're generating. So of course it disincentivizes generating that volume. I think we need to do quite a bit more analysis to understand when would be the right time for that. And then part of this long-term planning project that is upcoming is a stakeholder engagement process to get some feedback on different models. We want to hold at least 2 kind of public listening sessions and get as much feedback as possible. Or it may look like a survey. I would say that's kind of yet to be determined, the exact type of public engagement that public stakeholder feedback that we get. But those things are being discussed. It's just not going to be something that we implement next year when our new hauling contract starts. It's certainly something that could get negotiated during a 5-year contract. So it's not that we're shut out for the next 5 years, starting July 1 of next year. We can certainly make a change during the contract as long as we involve our hauler in the process. And we can also be looking ahead to that next 5-year timeline for a hauling contract, because it is a very smart time to make a change.
We're gonna have to start paying for our trash, the residents.
Well, you can ask that
Yeah.
question.
So you're saying that the timeframes now are shifting to 5-year timeframes? So are you down the road thinking that we as residents will start having to pay based on weight for our trash?
So I would say that's more up to the mayor and you all to kind of make that decision. You're the elected officials. I think that it is the best way to realign those incentives. And right now, with the structure of our program, that tax dollars go to the general fund is allocated to pay for a certain amount of waste. It doesn't create that incentive to reduce waste as much as possible. And it doesn't create the incentive to reduce your food waste. Like, when you do that right now, you're paying out of pocket, you're not gaining anything from it. But if we switched up the economic model, that could get flipped on its head and again, create that incentive for behavior change.
Okay, Councilor Kelly?
Thank you. This is one of the annual or semi-annual updates that makes me like staying on public facilities. And that's quite a compliment. But thank you again, Juanita. Again, very thorough, very wonderful. I just want to say a couple words about Black Earth. I didn't realize that we were only one of 3,000 households, which to me, like Councilor Kayla, seems low, unfortunately low. I also try and talk it up to friends, family, and neighbors. And unlike at David Kalis's house, they don't promise me they're going to, and they don't. They're just like, they say, oh, well, then you have to pay for it. And what do you do with it in the week? And then it gets smelly. And where do you store it? And when we first switched, because I don't have a home compost, it was a little adjustment at first, finding the little bin for the countertop, getting the bags that fit correctly. And then what you do with that stuff. We get picked up every 2 weeks. We could do it every week, but like we have a little freezer in the basement. So I just throw them all in the freezer and then just chuck them out on pickup day. But I'm trying to think about other ways we can help you and this program expand. I like the idea of village fairs and community days. And what about farmers markets? I would sit at a table at some of these. And the other thing is, most of us counselors, or we counselors, if I want to be grammatically correct, do some social media and newsletters. If there were a very simple
catchy PSA with a little bit of graphics and not too many words that we could share that would highlight like why it's important and how easy it is, and that you get a free bin right now. Free is always appealing. If you or your department and all your spare time design a simple little graphic like this and share it with us all, I bet most of us would be willing to send that out with our newsletters or put it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever we use and try and spread the word that way. Albemarle, I tried signing up for that, and I'm not technologically useless, but I could not figure out. It's really close to me. I thought I don't really need to because we use Black Earth anyway, but I wanted to figure out how to do it so I could tell other people how to do it. I signed up for Momo for the same reason, like just how to tell people how to do it and how easy it is. I don't know where the glitch was for me. I'm surprised. Maybe when you don't hear back from people, it's that they're too embarrassed to admit that they couldn't work through the application system, but I just thought I would give you that little personal thing. It's pretty close to me, and if I ever had an excess or, you know, my freezer was full, I would just go drop it off over there, and I couldn't ever quite get to the end of that. So
I'm so sorry to hear that, but I really appreciate the feedback and can certainly look into trying and simplifying that more.
I think it's all great. I'm upset about the weight of the organics, and it's not just about the cost. It's like what a bad thing it is environmentally. We don't want all that moisture and organic matter going into landfills. And I think again, the easier we make it, I hear people balk at the $60 twice a year. We're so spoiled by the free pickup, the trash pickup here in Newton. I think the thought of even having to pay to have your mattress picked up, people are like, what, I have to pay for that now? But, you know, we are headed in that direction. As you say, there's only so much room left on earth to put all our junk. So anyway, those are just a couple comments, and I would be really happy to post some kind of a little PSA. I think it would be better if it came from your department, so we're all using the same terminology, priorities, and graphics, rather than me. I could make something up and send it out, but if you ever get something like that, let us all know, and I bet most of us would be really happy to share that repeatedly.
That's a great marketing suggestion as well. I really appreciate that feedback, definitely.
Thank you so much.
So we don't usually call on the public, but Sun Wu, I believe you're the chair of the Solid Waste Commission, am I right? Sun Wu?
Hello?
Hi. Sun Wu,
Hi.
You are you're the chair of that commission, aren't you?
Yes, my name is Sunwoo Kang, and I am the chair of the Sustainable Materials Management Commission. And I applaud Councillor Getz's comment or question about the cart sizes, and I'd like to add a little bit to that, if I may. So the Sustainable Materials Management Commission put out a report in 2021 advocating for the reduction of cart sizes, along with possible pricing schemes to incentivize people to reduce trash. So we fully believe that's an excellent idea. We have recommended this to the mayor numerous times. We have not gained very much traction, unfortunately. So I have to say, it's really not a matter of not having had the opportunity to do the research and to gauge public interest in taking this on. You know, we released a report in 2021, and we're still not any closer to investigating this in 2024, and the contract is due very shortly. So my suggestion would be to put as much pressure on the mayor as possible, since she is the one in ultimately making this decision. I think she is fully aware that she could make this decision, but she has chosen not to. So we've been very disappointed by this. But thank you so much, Councillor Getz, for bringing the issue up, because I think it's a very important one, and it's very hard for our city to move to the next step without implementing something like this in order to incentivize reduction. So thank you.
Thank you. So I have one other suggestion, and that is for for Black Earth to tell people to expect. For a while, I was feeding the native animals because they were figuring out how to get into the bin. So I had to figure out how to keep them out of the bin with bungee cords. But I think that if Black Earth, if you're expecting it and you know how to deal with it, you'll do it in advance rather than, you know, have the mess caused by animals. So if they could include that in their educational materials, you know, how to deal with the animals that are gonna come look for your organics, I think that would be very helpful.
That's good to know. I've only heard of one other instance where the locking mechanism was not enough to deter rodents, pests, etc. I can certainly have a kind of new conversation with them about that. I haven't talked to them about that particular topic in a couple of years. And I also did recall that Councilor Getz did ask about the timeline of the RFP process, so I apologize for not circling back to that. I would expect certainly by early fall for more information, perhaps late September. And I would say certainly by, you know, October, to at least have, you know, letters of intent or, again, a kind of a better plan going forward, before that process of requesting approval for a 5-year contract. So if that's at all helpful, we are trying to move as quickly as possible. I would say, especially over summer with vacation schedules and things, it's been difficult to keep it kind of on the radar, like as a top priority for everyone that's working on this.
Well, any other comments, questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Traber, for a very informative presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we look forward to hearing more about the contract in the fall.
Certainly.
I guess we can NAN. Yes, yeah. So is that your motion?
That's my motion. Not that we're not gonna hear this in 6 months, but probably better to have a new docket item, it seems to me.
Okay, all those in favor of NAN, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, so that's unanimous. So, thank you very much. We have one last item. This is 281-24, Veronica Mary requesting to reappoint Jay Snyder, 2117 Commonwealth Avenue, as a member of the Citizens Commission on Energy for a term to expire on June 15th, 2027.
It's Ward 4, if you want to do it, Sunnystone.
I don't think he's still here.
I'll move it.
Okay, so Council President Laredo has moved it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, any abstentions? So that's also unanimous. And I think that concludes our work.
Adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.